The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. All right. Well, Mr. Betcher, we're on. There it is. How are you? Oh, wait, 1 second. My bad. Okay, so Real Tech Audio. There you go. Just keep talking. You know, I'll get y'all straightened out. It's been a minute since I've done this, folks. So I'm not sure why it is the way it is, but all right. How you doing? You doing all right now? Nope. Okay. You're you're still not on the audio. Zoom off, on. Okay. You know, I got to figure this out because eventually we're gonna be having like our class for malware analysis back on in the next few bits. So, okay. Turn the volume up. Okay. All right. Oh, wait. Let me. I don't know why this is so damn difficult, but. All right. Okay. I should be able to hear you now. Nope. God damn. Nope. God. Oh, well, that was a bit of a delay. Just talk about your day. You know how you tried to rear end somebody on the interstate or something like that. Yeah, there you go. Just keep talking, my dude. You're doing okay.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Oh.
Were you muted?
I didn't do that intentionally. It was like, okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Beginner's luck, right?
That doesn't apply here. That doesn't apply here.
Okay, so
that doesn't apply here either.
I kept saying, Brent, or break. You need procedures. You need to write this down and paste it there, and just do the step by step.
I have it written down somewhere. Unfortunately, I was packing for both a long vacation in Europe, and InfoSec Campout, which one went better than the other. I got COVID in Europe, but InfoSec Campout went well. Europe was good. So sorry. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, hello, this is Brian and Mr. Betcher for Bring It Down Security. Miss Berlin will not be here potentially today because I just saw her post on Facebook that she's out on a date. Because we all go on dates when we're younger and cool and not married for long periods of time. So so how are you, Mr. Betcher? It's been a month.
Well, you still go on dates, right? Birthdays, anniversaries, Valentine's. Yeah.
No, not really. Old married dude. Thought about doing that. Maybe when we get back down to San Diego, we'll do that. It's something we definitely want to continue, maybe get back into where we're, going to the McDonald's and, hooking that
up.
The
thrill is gone, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. almost broke out into song right there. The thrill is gone away. Yeah. Anyway. So
gonna have to, what would it be? 27 for you?
27
years?
Years? No. How old do you think I am?
Your guess is as good as mine.
My daughter is
okay. Your daughter is not quite in high school.
She is in high school. She
is in high school.
Well, she started her senior year yesterday.
Okay, 22.
Yeah, it's we're actually, I think, married. It'll be 17 years in August, April 1st.
And the thrill is already, you need to take her for her anniversary to DQ or something like the old days.
Yeah, well, she's lactose intolerant, so
Ah,
if I want to roll the windows down on the way home, then I'll definitely go to McDonald's or
yeah.
Dairy Queen. But yeah, it's we'll get back into that stride once we get down to San Diego. There's a lot of places that we go to when we're down there. So, and then once we get to a certain age, we'll be straining each other's peas and grinding up prunes for one another. So that'll be nice. It'll be nice.
Tell you what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but how have you been? It's been a month since we've talked in this format.
Hey man, living the dream, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, fighting the good fight
Right.
out there, against the attackers.
Yeah.
Still playing the defensive game.
Well, you went to Florida too, so you went on vacation shortly before I went on vacation. So how was that for you?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
It was hot. It wasn't
Yeah.
the ideal time of year. It was like the Florida winter, right? So everybody goes inside during the summer, and that's kind of their winter because
Right.
air conditioning, and then in the winter everybody goes outside like it's summer. So it's kind of the opposite there.
You got the you got lucky because it's been a fairly quiet tropical season there, so you dodged that bullet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we're on our Twitch stream right now for those of you who are listening to the audio podcast, and I'd like to thank Cyber1 for following and Gunner who followed us late yesterday. So thank you for the follows there, and of course Digital Warhead, who I met in Mead Space for InfoSec Campout, and he actually spoke at our conference. Mike spoke at our conference on P25 radios, which I thought was very cool. We are So I have mentioned earlier, as you heard on the podcast, I'll be moving to San Diego. So after InfoSec Campout, it was like, oh yeah, y'all need to keep doing this, and I'm like, I want to, but I'll be supporting a conference that's in Seattle while I live in San Diego. So I'm like, I'm going to need people who are more than willing to volunteer up here in the Seattle area to make that happen. So everyone seemed like on board with that, and they're like, yeah, well, we can do this. Yeah. So in 6 months we'll see, because
You can advise and consent.
You mean consult?
Consult. I guess consent would be a little too high and mighty.
Yeah, it's one of those things where maybe I should start delegating more. So it'd be like, yeah, if you want to run a conference up in the Pacific Northwest, here's how you do it. We'll pay for the stuff, because I told him, I was like, if I do it, then it would be like me flying up here with a rental car, a one-man tent, and a sleeping bag, and then be like, that's it, so we'll have to work some things out. But all in all, we had a good time. LAN party went well. We actually played a game called Asteroidians. The game developer was actually there. Asteroidians. Yeah, there it is. It's like Scorched Earth. Doink. There we go. If you want to go check that out, he didn't ask us to mention it on the show, but it was a fun game. We played it for a good hour and a half. Then we set up some Quake 3 arena and did that too. So that was fun. I actually bought it on itch.io and played it last night a little bit. It was fun. I like the weapons on it, so it's a good time, and you can play multiplayer games and stuff with that. So, but yeah, you learn something new every time you do a conference, right? I learned that I'll never use a projector outside with a projector screen, because it never gets dark enough here in August to, before 8:00 to be able to have the meeting, the talks and stuff. So, a 43-inch TV worked really well, like we did the first year. So, I should have communicated a little better. We could have used the Discord channels for communications and let people know talks were going on, because we were fairly disparate the area. We had a bit of a diaspora issue going on where people were camping, across the field, and they didn't know when things were happening. So a little bit of better communication in that respect probably wouldn't go amiss. And I'm sure we'll get some more feedback, but those were the big ones I think we got. But yeah, all in all, I think it was a lot of fun. We actually had a couple people show up the day of and go, "Hey, I heard about this. I'd love to camp." And I'm like, "Have at it." So there you go. So that was kind of fun. So I was hoping Ms. Berlin would join us because she went to Blue Team Con, and I wanted to talk to her about her experience at Blue Team Con. I heard it was quite fun. Frank and the team there put on a good conference, and yeah, was hoping we could get her on, but we'll look at doing something like that next week, I think, to get her online here. So, hey, do you? Hi, so there aren't a lot of outdoor conferences, Mr. Betcher. So you live in a state that has a longer summer than Seattle does. Would that be? Oh crap! That sucks. Okay.
What you got? Emergency?
Well, I left my credit card at the Mexican joint. Oh well, I'll have.
How did you just realize that?
I looked down at my wallet and I was like, "Oh, that's where my green card should be," and it's not there. So, yep, left my credit card.
I didn't know you had a green card.
Restaurant. Yeah, well, I'll just call him and tell him tomorrow. Go get it. Anyway, so have you ever thought about doing a conference outside in Texas? I mean, I've been to the ISSA meetups. I've been to the ISC squared meetups. There's more than enough people there that would maybe love to do something outside.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it. Yeah, it'd have to be close to winter.
Right.
Yeah. Or in the middle of winter.
Right.
December, January timeframe.
Yeah.
Because we do get cold spells every once in a while, but then it usually gets a lot warmer, right? Pretty quick. And that's when all the bugs are hibernating, right? So if you do it in the spring, fall, summer, you'll get a lot of insects, right?
Okay. Yeah,
Except maybe in Austin because they get a lot of bats. So
that's true. Yeah, it never had occurred to me at the time you and I were living down there together to, do any of that. But it seems like we need to shake up conferences and what they mean. Everybody puts a conference in a hotel and, there's rooms and people love to do that. I don't know if it's, we just, that's what we're used to. But anytime you shake it up like tour camp or whatever, tour camp is a novelty and it's an excellent conference. I'm not gonna talk crap about them at all because they come every time we've had an InfoSec Campout and cooked for us in their big ass pizza oven and made more food than you could possibly imagine. And they're awesome people, and you should definitely go to tour camp if you can. But we don't have enough conferences that are kind of different in that respect. I mean, every conference follows this kind of the same playbook. You have a hotel, you have rooms, you have people flying to those things, and they stay there. I don't know. It just feels. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or whatever, but it's like I feel like we need to shake up what conferences are. We've kind of gotten used to them being the same old, kind of thing. So, and there's not enough folks doing, something a little different. So I applaud the tour camp folks. I applaud, I would applaud myself, but it seems oddly self-serving. But if we could, the virtual stuff was kind of probably the biggest thing that we'd had changes to, but there's downsides to that in terms of networking. But, yeah, I'd just like to, see people maybe
like a party boat. I don't know.
You know what? there have been people who have suggested cruise ships. I mean, yes, it's a floating hotel, but it's different. It's, you know, if you, there are 3-day cruises from San Diego down to like Mazatlan or what? No, Mazatlan. Somewhere in the Baja, if I get it. There's like there's 3-day cruises, and they're not overly expensive. There's stuff that comes out of Galveston there for Texas. There's a Disney cruise ship, and people are like, well, you get sick on the cruise ships. Con crud in hotels are a thing, right? So I'm not exactly sure what would be the difference between if you're worried about getting sick on a cruise ship versus a hotel, there's like not much difference, I think, in many cases. So, but
Yeah.
I would love to maybe explore that option, maybe in San Diego. If I can't do the camping thing in San Diego, there's plenty of campsites there, except it's a bit roughing it. If I could be honest, the campsites there are not as nice as the ones up here in Carnation, from what I've seen on the pictures. You actually have to camp, and there's no power or water, so it's like, But
Glamping.
I'm a glamper. I am very much a glamper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
So what reminded me of like a party boat was when I was near your part of the country,
right.
we went on a what do you call the boats where you put your car on?
Ferry.
We went on a ferry to go to the island.
Right.
All right.
Did you go to like
And
Bainbridge or what?
It was giant.
Yeah.
And it's like people must have stayed on there for days, like maybe to go to Alaska or something. It was enormous boat.
Yeah, yeah. They have the car ferries here, but usually it's to take you across the sound to go to Bainbridge Island, or there's other ones.
These were more long term. I'm talking a long time.
Okay, because they have the Blackball ferry, which leaves Port Angeles to go over to Victoria, British Columbia. Oh, you know what? I think I know the ones you're talking about. There are ones that you can take that go up into Alaska, but I've never seen those. We had a friend of ours go from Fairbanks down. They had to, it was during the pandemic, and he was retiring from being an air traffic controller in Fairbanks, and they wanted to move to Oklahoma, and the government of Canada gave them 48 hours to go from Fairbanks, Alaska down to Spokane, basically, which means they had to haul ass, just book it, because, there's no direct area. There's no, and they were driving. So, but, I was looking at options for them, and there are ferries that go up into some of these, fjords and things. That might be what you're talking about. But
look at WashingtonFerries.com, and there's a picture of one. It's pretty big.
Yeah, WashingtonFerries.com.
I know it's a tiny picture, but
WashingtonFerries.com. There it is. Book ferry travel. Oh, yeah, that's one of the that's one of the normal ferries that go like across. There's a Bellingham to Alaska map. Okay. So you're right. There are some ferries that will take you all the way to Unalaska. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So
interesting. So have a conference on one of those.
I'm not sure why I would want to take my car with me, but
you just drive up to it. There you are.
There are numerous Holland America cruise ships that leave out of Seattle. We actually took one in 2012 up to Alaska. So it was a 7-day cruise. But yeah, so you can go to Bellingham to Juneau. Yeah, there's a Bellingham ferry to Juneau, to Ketchikan, to Kodiak. to Sitka. Okay, Skagway. So yeah, Whittier. So there are those long-term ferries. You're absolutely right. Let me see. Return route. It's total passengers, like 8 passengers. Total number of vehicles. Okay, all right. So that makes sense. I would imagine those are not cheap. Let's go see. Oh, yeah. Number of vehicles. Um, let's say 3 passengers, 1 vehicle. It'd be like my family. If I wanted to take Bellingham to Sitka, and that would be, oh my god, I got to fill out a bunch of shit. Yeah, so they're expecting like RVs and stuff, like if you were RVing it up or what have you. Yeah, this sounds like it's not cheap. So yeah, but it's definitely something you could look into. But yeah, it is what it is. Um, so you got any conferences you're going to go to soon? Besides Austin, when is that
No,
one?
I
Okay.
don't even think it's I think the last time they scheduled it, they canceled. Let me
Oh,
check.
was it a pandemic thing? Oh yeah, 2020, October 7th, 2020. We hate to say it, we can't make B-Sides Austin happen in 2021. Okay, so they're looking at December 2nd, 2022. Yeah, okay, so just wow, December 2nd, 2022. Wait a minute.
They're going to try.
Oh, that's the same weekend as HushCon up here in Seattle.
Mm.
B-Sides Austin and HushCon. So, yeah, so that's pretty
There's
cool.
Matt Pardo.
Oh, very good. Good for him.
Kick it up again.
All right. So yeah, besides Austin, it's always a good time. Uh, yeah. HushCon just sent out their email for folks if they wanted to go to that. They're back at one of the nicer venues that they've had up here in the Seattle area. The last, I don't know, 4 or 5 times they've had it, it's been just in a god awful venues. So I'm glad they're back doing them proper. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to go down to B-Side San Diego in October just to make some inroads with people. I've joined their DC 619-858 Discord. Trying to build up that network because it took me a little while to start that up here in Seattle. So I'm like, need to make that start happening down there. So, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard work. Rebuilding that network after you've been gone for a while. So,
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, I didn't have a security. I wasn't a security person when I was in San Diego, so I had no idea as to what was really going on down there at the time. So. But I've got a friend of mine I used to work with at CrowdStrike who invited me to their DC, the DEF CON Discord, and so yeah, me and Yasik are gonna get it set up, and we're gonna maybe start a San Diego security meetup or something like that. So we'll see what happens. Cool. All right, so let's talk about the topic that we had thought of just before we started recording here. So, Mr. Betcher, I do a Twitch stream, right? On the regular, at least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
So for you podcast audio listeners, that was Mr. Betcher vigorously shaking his head yes and doing thumbs ups. So I've been trying to work on creating content that isn't just me starting up Hack the Box or Try Hack Me and just banging through some lessons over there, because it gets monotonous and boring, and maybe not everybody gets involved, and I'm just kind of BSing my way through some of those things by grind it till you find it kind of stuff. And one of the things that has been brought up to me was, that I do at work and I do it poorly is code review, and I've always thought it would be cool to find an application, because there's we talk about open source being many eyes looking at the code, and there's less vulnerabilities because everybody has access to the code and all that bullshit that doesn't really nobody really believes, but they all they still cling to that. And my thought was, well, maybe we have somebody who actually does go and do a proper code audit or a code review or something for an open source project, with the idea of finding bugs or showing, finding areas where they could improve the code. The problem is, and I threat modeled this, and I was like, well, okay, so let's, my first thought was to, do wget or do something that's fairly well known, like wget or curl or something like that. And my thought was, yeah, that'll be great. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone has a vested interest in this because a lot of people use wget and everything. And then I was like, what happens if I found a vulnerability that nobody had disclosed yet on something that everybody and their brother uses in embedded devices and IoT and all little piddly ass little piece of shit IoT devices to run updates on their boxes? And it does something like, really awful, like remote code exec. And I was like, okay, well, I can't use a well-known application for obvious reasons. So what I was trying to figure out how to do and what to do would be to do a manual code review. And then I backed it up even further and go, well, I don't really know how to do them. I don't come from a coding background. So, I'm looking at code. I could maybe walk through it, but I don't have a good methodology on how to do these things. And since you're a developer of LogMD, I was wondering what, if anything, you would appreciate for somebody who might want to look through your code if it was open source, and how you might walk them through that code.
How I might walk a code reviewer through my code.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
most, the place that I work at right now, a manual code review, and I'm using quotey fingers right there, is, set up the IDE, run these tools, and then, it's not really what I would consider manual. My idea of manual is you're looking at the code and you're like, oh, they've initialized this variable. Oh, they didn't initialize this variable. Oh, this would return to, null instead of 0, or, they're not following best practices. So what I'm trying to figure out is the best way to do a manual code review on an application. If there's any methodologies or any way that you would appreciate from a developer's point of view, how I would be done.
Well, I was thinking as you were talking on the other half of my brain, like, wouldn't it be cool if AI could do the code review for you? But anyway, that's in another 5 years or whatnot, whenever that comes out. But I would say I would have to do some prep work on my code. I would have to document the functions, right? What does this function do? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? Things like that. And have in the comments a description of that. If you've ever read Java docs, that's almost a requirement. If you're going to get good documentation in Java, all the classes that you build are going to have or should have good documentation in the right format. And then Java docs will spit out or look through that code, spit out all the comments, and you should get really good documentation just from what you've written in the code, right? In the comments. But yeah, that's first and foremost, is to do really good at documentation in the code itself. So then when you present it to the code reviewer, they'll ask you, okay, so what does this class do, right? And so you'll have to describe what it does, and they'll look through it, and there'll be a series of methods within that class, right? And then you'll have to describe what that method does and why it's there, potentially the inputs and outputs, right? What goes into this method? What does the method do to those inputs? And what does the method spit out in return, right? Okay. And it's obvious to read, oh, it takes an integer and it spits out a string, right? But you have to describe what it gives you. And then the code reviewer can say, okay, well, you're expecting a number between 1 and 10, but you don't check for that, right? Those are some easy wins there for the code reviewer to say, well, you need to check, you need to validate the input, right, on this function. Okay. It doesn't matter if you know, because you've written the code that calls it, that it always calls it with that in mind. No, first of all, you've got to document, I'm expecting a number between 1 and 10. And that'll show up in the development environment. Anybody trying to call that will see when they type that out, they'll see the comment that says a number between 1 and 10. It'll show
Right.
them, right? And
Right.
then for the return value, it'll be a string that represents blah, blah, blah. So
Okay.
inputs and outputs, big thing. That way you prevent fuzzing, right?
Okay. Okay. All right. So
I shouldn't
I
use a word
actually
like prevent. I would say mitigate. It mitigates the fuzzing
right.
hack. So I'm looking at it from a not necessarily a bug perspective, but when you do
Okay.
security, that does take care of some bugs.
Okay. Um so I have up on our screen here a nice there we go. Make it a little bigger. There's a thing to add to your code review checklist. Because I was just, I was listening and thinking at the same time, and I was like, well, somebody must have something here. And they're talking about 7 steps for code review or for better code, establishing goals. Code reviews are more than just finding errors and bugs. I'm actually now interested in wanting to do this with some application. The problem is, I think finding that application is going to be the problem. Being able to, cover that with, somebody who, one, does a developer want somebody to review the source code of their ugly baby, or like
Well,
you
if they
said,
open source it, maybe so.
well, what if they don't have documentation, like you said? What if it's, they don't, they don't have that documentation, and I'm, causing all kinds of issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough for a developer just to explain what they want to do because it's almost considered a waste of time in some cases. Like,
Right.
why do I have
Because
to
I'm
document
causing them
this?
more work, and it's one of those things, right?
Right. Well, I don't
Um,
know. You mentioned curl earlier. Let me see if I can find the code to curl. I
well,
know I've compiled it before.
that's my worry. I can download curl and do that, but what happens if I was to find something particularly egregious in curl? One, I'm on a public stream and I uncover an O-day. I don't know why I would, but weird shit happens sometimes. Um, there we go. If I found a no day, then it would be like a race to, put the bug out, and what happens if I find bugs? How do I file them? That kind of thing. Do I have to, download the code with Git and then make the, make the pull request and say, hey, you've got a vulnerability here, and then upload it? I mean, what do these things look like? So I think there's a little bit of prep work on my side as well. Yours is documentation and making sure that the code's ready to be reviewed. And on my side, it's like I need to make sure things like my IDE, if I use Visual Studio Code, or I'm using maybe it's a linter or something. When I go through the code, and it'll show me all kinds of errors where the people, and maybe those are errors that people don't care about. I mean, what if I put up a bunch of bugs that the developers like, yeah, I'm too busy implementing dark mode right now, I don't want to have to worry about that shit, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
I'm
hey,
looking at curl right
Super
now, and
Lolly, hey, how you doing? Glad you could join us, and thank you for subscribing for 5 months in a row. I appreciate you, sir. um Glad you could join us tonight. So super, what's your thought on this, with regards to, I do regular streams and I want to do code reviews, but it's like, would you watch something like that? Is that even interesting? I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, would it be interesting for people to watch me, I don't know, look at freaking code all day, or for a stream? I mean, is that even something that would be interesting to folks? And maybe there's some candidates out there. It's like, hey, I've got something I use at work and I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, and it's open source, so I don't know. I just want to shake it up a little bit and not have, like, always be hack the box or try hack me or whatever. We do have our malware analysis class starting up at the end of the month with Miss Tanisha again. So, I mean, our Tuesdays will have a class at least for 3 or 4 weeks, but it's like, I want to, do something a little different than not everybody else is doing on their Twitch streams. So, anywho, all right, there we go. Turn that off. To perform effective code reviews. In my previous blog post, we discussed 10 simple code review tips for effective code reviews. Okay, well, let's go back to that one. Let's go back. Oops. There we go. Okay, so I can't grab the freaking. There we go. It was the lip of the browser was like right underneath that. So basic code review checklist. Okay. Oh, for fuck's sake. There we go. All right. So highlight issues in code. Never force software developers to change the code written by them. It may hurt their ego, and they may repeat the same mistake if they don't understand the reason behind the code change recommendation. Hurt their ego? Are you kidding me? Super Lolly says, I think it will be the same for most folks. They want to know how it's done. So this will be the part that will need multiple explanations. Yeah. That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering about the hurting their ego thing. So Mr. Betcher, if they publish your code and it's public, shouldn't they be aware that people are going to potentially look at their code and critique it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons you publish it is to have other people check it, make sure that it's copacetic, right? Offer suggestions, things like that. I was looking at the code to curl, and there's some code in there that was updated yesterday.
Nice.
I mean, 12 hours ago, there was one. So, yeah. It seems pretty, the code I looked at seems pretty legit. I mean, even though it doesn't have the comments like, okay, this class copies the string and returns the new one. It doesn't say that, but you look through the code, that's what it does. It's pretty straightforward and it's done the right way. So, hey.
What kind of code is that? Is it C?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess part of the whole part of the manual code review tips would be understanding the language a little bit of what you're doing and what the peccadillos are. Like Java doesn't do garbage collection properly, so you're going to have developers that are just allowing random memory leaks or whatever if they're not doing their needfuls and wiping out the garbage at the end. Or C, I think you have to initialize every variable first before you use it. I mean, I thought there were some specific peccadillos for that.
Yeah, not necessarily those in particular, but yeah. I mean, you, for example, the string copy. You definitely need to, when you call that function, you need to make sure that you destroy that string later on.
Yeah, stir copy. There's a number of like fgets. I mean, there's specific things where if you don't use it right, it can lead to things like buffer overflows, what have you. They're not used properly. So instead of str copy, you'd want to use either I think stern. I think somebody said stern versus stir copy. So making sure
there's stir copy /s or _s.
Okay.
Right. Because it's more secure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can look at the Microsoft documentation for that as well.
Stir copy _s. Oh, wow. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. No, it's here. I just thought it was, I remember there also being one called stirl copy at one point. Stirl copy. Yeah, stirl copy, and stirl cat. These are size bounded string copying and concatenations. It almost makes me want to harken back to my OpenBSD days, because there were Back in the day when OpenBSD was, dedicated to security, they really, audited their code on a regular basis, and I was on their mailing lists, and you would have people putting in, diffs of code or what have you. Um, that might actually be, worth doing something. So, this, I think I have a way to go with this. I just have to, one, figure out what application we want to do, and see what we can do to make that happen. Because ideally, I'd love to understand this, because I never came from that world. So, but I'd also like to not just, throw a bunch of freaking open source tools or garbage tools at it to, and then, throw up my my findings and them being, false positives or something the developer doesn't give a shit about. So I'd have to, run those through something else. Any stupid can write the program that computer understands, but only good programmers write code that humans understand. I'm thinking any stupid. I think they didn't put the whole comment in there, or maybe that was the point.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we're not understanding because we're not at Martin's level. Hey, hit that last link I sent you.
Oh, chat. Okay, let me grab that. Oh, yeah, Microsoft's.
So you can read at the top. It says more secure versions of these functions are available. So strcpy _s and so forth. Yeah. So
I wonder why
if you can identify those in some code, you can say, hey, let's use the more secure string copy here. So if you hit the second to last one that I gave you.
Oh, there's curl. Okay. Let me maximize there we go. Spidex. Okay, so they use an SPDX for the licensing. Okay, so if in def have str dupe.
So they're using memcopy in theirs if you look at the bottom.
Oh, memcopy, yeah, okay. And then length. But they're calling the new string, but this str is the old string, and then the length of the string itself?
That's right.
Okay.
So yeah, so strcpy only takes in it doesn't get the length, right? So that's the problem.
Right.
If you go to strcpy _s, you get the destination size, right?
Okay.
So that it makes sure that you're getting the proper size and you're not like squashing other data in memory because your string is a larger size than the one you're copying.
Okay.
Or vice versa.
Right.
The string you're copying to is too small, the memory block. Right.
Right.
So there's all these little things as a good developer you would know. So if you see that when you're doing a code review, you're like, wait, this is deprecated, or you should use the one that requires a size so that we know that the max size isn't reached or gone over. So we overwrite the null terminator at the end and just start copying over other memory.
Right.
You'll get bugs pretty quick if you do that.
Okay.
If you're not checking that size.
Okay. Super Lolly says, if I was a dev and people wanted to review my code, I'd happily take any criticism, since most new developers, especially those produced from 3 months of programming programs, don't put secure coding as their main priority. That's true. We've heard more than one time from even college level folks that, a lot of programmers don't learn the secure methods until after they've done 3 years worth of non-secure methods.
Yeah.
I hope that's changed. I hope that's changing. Depending on where they are, where they're learning that at. Because I think that's a lot of problems. But okay, so I think I have a good starting place. It looks like I've got some links that I need to go and review with regards to prepping for one of these things. I think I just need to find a good application that I can do that with. I'm not sure curl
Or you can
is
make
the
something up that has a few errors in it, like the stir copy, right? Maybe you don't check the length. You write a
yeah.
function like what's in curl, but you don't check the length of the string,
Huh.
and somebody could incidentally have a bug in their code
Right.
or allow for buffer overflows, that sort of thing.
Right. Let me, you know what? It might actually be good to maybe start with something like known bad code exercises. Let's see. 5 bad coding practices that other developers hate your guts. Okay. 10 bad coding practices that wreck software. I don't know. I need coding exercises. Let me see. Mm, simple programming problems. Oh, that one's okay. Yeah, he's TA for an introductory CS class where they learn programming languages. Okay.
Well, these would
Might
be
actually
probably the typical things you would write a program for, maybe.
right. Right. Um so we've talked a little bit about code. Mr. Betcher, do you run yours through any automated code processes, or are you using they call them linters or anything like that to you know and I'm sorry to put you on the spot if the answer is no. I do apologize for that. But if the answer is no, but do you use any automated code methods?
Well, automated code, you mean like
A scanner like a
scanner?
Fortify or
Yeah.
a Coverity or something like that.
Yeah. So at work, every company that I have worked for has implemented um, code scanners, right?
Uh-huh.
And so there's a number of them on the market, and
Okay.
they will check for secure code as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Removes
So
the
that's
lights.
your static analysis, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, typically you would get a very experienced coder to do your code review.
Right. Okay. You know, where I work at right now, one of my jobs is that I'm required to go over applications to do these code reviews. The problem is they tell you how to do a manual code review is to set up the IDE, download these tools, and run this against that code. And I'm like, that's not a manual code review. That's just an automated. The only manual part is you clicking scan, and I'm like, that's not what I want to do. I actually want to care about the code that I'm editing. You know, I actually want to be able to understand the internals and be able to modify that. I did run. I did have a couple of sessions with the lead developer walking me through these things, which I thought was probably above and beyond what the people who asked me to certify these applications was doing. But you know, if I don't have to, you know, take up a lead developer's time and do the audit, you know, do the code audit myself, then I would probably be, you know, more valuable as a, you know, technical PM or something like that at my org. So yeah. But anyway,
So yeah,
um,
you're probably doing things like SAS, DAST, SCA, those kind of
right.
things.
Yeah. Well, we have a specific process that has been created by the powers that be, and it as most things, it's currently in flux. But yeah, we definitely have automated tools that we put in our CI/CD pipelines, and it's part of the process to certify the app. It's like you're going to go through automated pen test. We actually have a. Let me see. We have automated scanning, we have manual scanning, which is what I'm supposed to be doing on the specific projects that I'm working on. Then, depending on the level of the application, we have a third party come in and actually do a pen test, or what I term security assessment now, because pen test has been overused to the point where it doesn't mean much anymore. And then we're supposed to do security testing, which is I'm actually supposed to walk through the app myself and test it. And in this case, it was a web app, so I fired up me some burp, and I walked through it, and I found some annoying things, like I was able to upload a file, like a GIF file, and call it a document, or I was able to upload a text file and call it a video. And I was submitting this, and I told the developer, I was like, look, it should be looking for specific file types, and not just it says .png at the end, so it's obviously a graphics file. It's like you need to have it looking inside at the file type, not just necessarily do it. And what you're doing right now is nothing, because I could upload a PNG and call it a text file. He's like, that's a fair call out. I was like, cool. Just some logic
they need to look
stuff.
at the bit flags, not the bit flags. Sorry, that's different. The signature bits. I forget what they're called at the very beginning.
Like the first 8 bytes on the file that tell you like what the file is or something, I think. Yeah. But I mean, obviously if I didn't tell him, hey, you need to make sure this is actually a video file, he'd be like, well, here's a .mkv file. It's obviously a video file. I'm like, no, you can't do that. So, and so, other things like, I couldn't get cross-site scripting to light off, but I could take a phone field, like a phone number field, and put text in there and submit it, and it would work. I was like, look, if I was a bad guy and had access to this website, just the fact that I could do that, even if I can't get XSS to light off, would be enough for me to go like, there must be some other weird shit going on, because if he's not doing, validation of, the data that is going into that field, I could probably do other things.
There's got to be something else there.
Right. I'm not that entirely skilled as a pen tester so much anymore for web apps, but that's not normal behavior. And if I was a bad guy, I would be like, if that's wrong, then what else is wrong? And that would make me want to pause and start poking around a little bit more on that site. So, and knowing the code, so that way I don't have developers just telling me, oh, this is what it does. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I want to be able to, speak intelligently to that and go, I understand the data structures, like a while statement and an if statement and, case statements and things like that. But it's like, I want to be able to understand, those things. And I've tried my damnedest to learn things like Python and whatever, but I don't code. And probably that's to my own detriment. So, but anyway, cool. So you've given me some things to think about, some things I need to prep for. Maybe some future sessions here on the Twitch stream, getting everything set up, trying to find a good application to do so. So, we'll be working on some of that stuff in the near future. I'll just be going through some applications. I thought it maybe like there's some open source games out there, that I thought maybe would be worth the time and effort, because, they're not mission critical apps like wget or curl. So, if I find an O-Day in, I don't know, Super Tux Kart, which is Mario Kart, but with open source mascots, then not going to be a huge deal. You know what I mean? I can submit that for a bug or what have you. But if I found some kind of bad shit in like curl, because that exists, that might be a bigger deal. And might even have me run afoul of my current company. So I want to make sure I want to be cognizant of that. So, cool. All right. Well,
or you could do it on your own first before you go live. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I could do that. Might actually be worth time and effort to do that. Cool.
But,
all right.
Something like curl has been looked over by many eyes. But you never know. You never know.
Right. Yeah. So, there it is. All right. So, doink. Oh, wait. Turn that off. Turn off the browser. There we are. There we're back again. Okay. Transition. There we go. Cool. I need to work on that a little later. Cool. All right. Well, Mr. Betcher, good show. Thought we learned something. I thought I learned something. I hope everyone else did too. Super Lolly, I hope you learned something. Let me know if you do appreciate your support again this month, Super Lolly, for 5 months in a row. So, Mr. Betcher, how would people? What's that?
By the way, I got the first 3 questions correct, even though it was just complete guessing on the Sorvel quiz.
Oh, on the Sockville
we talked
stuff,
about before. I'm on number 4. It's going to be a complete guess, but
okay.
Yeah. So
well, if you don't want to ruin the surprise on the Sockville week 24 quiz, don't watch yesterday's stream, Mr. Betcher.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Betcher, do you have Amazon Prime?
Yep.
Hey, I don't see you subscribing to our Twitch stream with your Amazon Prime membership.
Oh,
But,
okay.
you could do that, and it doesn't cost you anything. I'm
Nice.
using that as an impetus for other folks who might be watching this stream and go, "Oh, well, I have Amazon Prime as well. I could subscribe for nothing." So we get a little cash from Amazon. You have to do it every month, but if you have Amazon Prime, you can actually support our podcast by just logging in and connecting your Prime account.
Yeah.
Or you
Awesome,
can
dude.
support us like Super Lolly did, or Digital Warhead, who've supported us for many months on end, out of the kindness of their hearts. But so, Mr. Betcher, how would people find you if they wanted to talk more about code audits or coding and programming in general?
Yeah, you can look me up on log-md.com.
Okay. Are you on Twitter so much anymore?
Not so much anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you're a hacker, you know how to get a hold of me, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You'll find a
Hey,
way.
it's Digital Warhead. There he is, right there. He came in at the end, but that's fine. It's all good. Yeah, thanks Digital for your support. I appreciate that. And I just wondered if you were using Twitter anymore for like threat intelligence, or what you're using for threat intel these days, unless you have specialized feeds from companies. I still find Twitter to be a good source of threat intel, but also the DFIR Discord as well. So, but anywho, Miss Berlin, who went to Blue Team Con, will get a report about Blue Team Con hopefully next week. You can find her on Twitter at InfoSyster, INFOSYSTIR. Mr. Betcher, who mentioned he's already at Betcher Pwned, or log-md.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Break. I'm also on our BreakSec Discord at discord.gg/BreakSec, which I will put in the chat for those of you who might be watching at a later date. There you go. There's an invite. We have a vanity link. Very active group there, including folks like Super Lolly and Digital Warhead and Mr. Scott Pack and the Infamous and a bunch of other folks. We do have a code of conduct, so when you go in, make sure you read it and click OK. Otherwise, you don't get access to all the channels, and I'll boot you after about 5 days if you don't, accept the code of conduct. So, just a heads up for those of you out there who might be trying to join the Discord. You can get our audio podcasts at breakingsecurity.com. You can also get it at whatever favorite podcast platform you enjoy. We'd also appreciate if you could, put some 5-star reviews up there on that, and tell your friends about the Twitch stream, the Discord, what have you. We've always thrived on word of mouth, and hope everyone enjoyed the show here. As I said, the malware analysis class with Miss Tanisha will start up at the end of September. We'll put out some more information about that in the coming weeks. We did session 1, which was, I believe, setting up your lab and getting ready for that. We will be testing real malware in the class. And ideally, also what I would like to do in the future is, thank you, Digital Warhead, for posting up the breakingsecurity.com link. What I'd love to do in the future is, after I have her class, then I would, continue analyzing malware potentially in some way, shape, or form. And maybe Mr. Betcher can sit down with me and we can do things like configuring Windows devices with, Sysmon or whatever, and look at IOCs, and, when I explode my malwares in my sandboxes or whatever it is, we'll poke around and analyze some malware post class or whatever. So maybe that's something we all can, me and Mr. Betcher, Miss Berlin, can sit down and do on a stream one day. So, anything else, Mr. Betcher, before we go?
No, you did good.
Cool. All right. Well, that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Hope you have a great week. Be kind to one another. Take care of yourselves. As we're fond of saying here, you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.